The strategies implemented by the Ukrainian army in the Kherson region continue to work. The Ukrainian army takes advantage of the Russians' inability to act in an organized manner in the region and creates more space for movement in the region. In this way, they can move more easily in the region and create a danger for the Russian army. The Russians are not organized in the region, and the soldiers on the front line have problems with their commanders. In our previous reports, we mentioned that the crisis that arose as a result of Russian soldiers refusing to obey the orders of the commanders and refusing to fight. The Ukrainian army continues to be successful in the region by taking advantage of the Russian problems here. The Ukrainian army wants to strengthen its positions along the riverbank. In this way, the Ukrainian army can take another step on the road to Crimea. The Ukrainian forces have strengthened their positions in the forest region, and the most intense clashes are taking place in this region. The Ukrainians have strengthened their positions on the east bank of the river and can easily repel Russian attacks in the area. The Ukrainian army wants to make its positions on the east bank of the river permanent in the region. Although the Russians continue to organize airstrikes in the region, they cannot achieve the desired success. Intense clashes around Krinky also continue. We have said that the Ukrainian army has strengthened its positions in the forest region. The Russian army carried out an offensive operation here. The Russians lost many soldiers as a result of the attack. The Russians lost more than 20 soldiers in the attack. The Ukrainian army's defense blocks in the region are quite strong. Communication between Russian troops is quite weak. For this reason, the air operations carried out by the Russians in the region cannot be successful, because the connection between the reconnaissance units and the soldiers is very weak. For this reason, attacks in the region often do not find the target, and after unsuccessful attacks, Russian troops prefer to stay in defense position instead of attacking. However, Russian commanders do not want the soldiers to wait in a defense position, but to continue offensive operations. By disobeying the orders of their commanders, Russian soldiers accept Ukrainian superiority in the region. The Ukrainian army, which continues its supply operations in the region by taking advantage of the bad weather conditions in the region, has strengthened its positions in the region. The deterioration of the weather along with the communication problems in the Russian army favored the Ukrainian army. Taking advantage of these conditions, the Ukrainian army deployed soldiers and armored vehicles to the region when the Russians could not conduct reconnaissance operations. Ukrainian forces also expanded their area of action by making rotations in the region. The Ukrainian army continues to destroy Russian equipment so that its troops in the region can move more easily. Ukrainian drone operators are destroying Russian heavy thermobaric artillery systems. Ukraine continues to gain strength in Kherson while the situation is getting worse for the Russians. Do you think the Ukrainian army will succeed on the road to Crimea? While the Ukrainian army continues its offensive and defense operations on the front line, the operations carried out by the Ukrainian secret services leave the Russians in a difficult situation. Ukraine's first target was one of the two major railway lines between Russia and China. This was very important for Russia's supply network. The Ukrainian secret service destroyed a Russian convoy passing through the Sevamuysky tunnel. This tunnel is in the Buryatia region of Russia. With the big explosion in the area, the connection was completely broken. Ukrainian intelligence sources reported that 4 explosives were activated on a 50-car train carrying aviation fuel and the train was blown up. A large number of containers exploded and Russia suffered major damage. The tunnel was rendered unusable by the impact of the explosion. This is not the first time Ukraine has attacked the Russian supply route. Ukraine carries out these attacks continuously, because one of the most important things in war is supply. It is one of the worst things for a country if the supply routes do not work regularly. The Ukrainian army, which continues to hit the connection points on the front line, has recently inflicted many losses on the Russians. The Russians wanted to distract attention by putting forward other reasons for the incident. Another railway line used between Russia and China was also blown up. An explosion also occurred on the train in this area and the route became unusable. Since these containers contained fuel, the explosions were very violent. These attacks are also destroying the reputation of the Russians. Along with these attacks, the intensity of the reactions against Putin is also increasing. Russia's inability to respond to the attacks after these explosions, along with the problems of the Russians on the front line, also disturbed the Russian people. Russian leader Vladimir Putin has been trying to minimize these reactions by preventing the spread of news since the beginning of the war. However, people can now access these news more easily. The Russian people, who can also reach the negative results on the front line, openly expressed their reactions to Russian leader Vladimir Putin and criticized Putin's administration. Ukraine continued to carry out attack operations on the strategic targets it has determined, breaking Russia's defense power. The Ukrainian army, which also destroyed a warehouse with kamikaze drones in the Bryansk region, taught the Russians a lesson. The Russians suffered great losses because they could not protect their ammunition and equipment depots. While Ukraine's successful attacks made the Ukrainian administration happy, a red alarm sounded in the Kremlin. The inability to detect the attacks in advance and the big explosions disturbed the Kremlin. If these attacks continue, reactions against Putin and his administration will increase. The operations organized by the Ukrainian Secret Service left the Russians helpless. The Ukrainian Air Force, which also carried out an attack operation on a Russian airport in the Crimea region, used Storm Shadow missiles in the attack and managed to hit the airport in sky by overcoming the Russian air defense system. Russia's inability to prevent Ukrainian attacks was also met with fear by the Russian army. While Ukraine's successes on the front line also unsettled the Russians, the problems within the Russian army continue to increase. While the Ukrainian army continues its counterattack operations, it reported that it continues to strengthen its air defense systems in order to be stronger against Russian attacks. Zelensky announced preparations to strengthen Ukraine's air defense. Zelensky said, "We are already preparing. We will definitely increase the air defense capabilities of our state. We are also preparing new packages of military support together with our partners. We are preparing to strengthen our air defense. The strengthening of Ukraine's air defense system is an unchanged priority." Ukraine has received the entire nomenclature list of air defense systems agreed upon with Western partners. However, the country needs more of these systems in terms of quantity. According to Yuri Ihnat, the spokesperson for the Air Force, Ukraine needs more systems like Patriot, SAMPT IRIS-T, and NASAMS to protect the country and the objects that the enemy may try to attack and destroy. According to Zelensky, the most challenging situation with air defense systems is in the border regions with Russia and Belarus and Ukraine. This also applies to the frontline and occupied regions. We have conveyed to you the most important developments on the front line and beyond the front line. What do you think about the latest developments? You can share your thoughts with us by commenting.